Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, November 1st. I thank you so much for joining in to our weekly healthcare reform webinars. Pretty excited today. Carrie McEwen from Highmark is our guest speaker, and she's going to be taking a few minutes to talk to you about 2019 products. For those of you that are new to this format, my name is Deb Wilkinson. I'm the Vice President of the Health Plan Options Department here at URL. My duties include overseeing the traditional group markets, as well as the self-funding, level funding, reference-based pricing, all of those group markets, the ancillary lines, and as I always say, what is left of the individual market in the state of Pennsylvania. And actually, we do have some updates, some good updates on that segment as well. So just with a show of hands, if you can hear me okay and see my screen all right, if you can throw up your electronic hand, that's great. And if you want to ask questions, that's the same way you ask questions. You can either raise your hand and I'll unmute you at the end of Carrie's presentation or at the end of this webinar, or you can type in your questions in the question box and I'll answer those at the end of the webinar as well. So let's get right into the agenda. Today is a day that will live in infamy. Open enrollment for individuals starts today. I think we all know that. November 1st through December 15th for 1/1 effective dates. That is the open enrollment for the individual market, both on and off exchange. There were issues we talked about last week with the Direct Enrollment Pathway that was disabled because of the 75,000 person data breach on healthcare.gov. But that has been corrected. If there are issues, they may be new issues. UPMC is still having some quoting issues. I was on healthcare.gov this morning and UPMC is not showing up for some of their expansion territories. So again, be mindful of that if you are in this segment. Resources for quoting, healthcare.gov. You can go in and just search for rates and you can do the rates. Or you can go to URL's site under Health Plan Options and Quoting Tools and get our quoting link. That is also for on Marketplace only. Or, of course, you can go to the carrier sites. We are working diligently. Judy Reed, for those of you that know and love her, is working diligently to pull all these brochures and everything that you need for 2019 and getting those on our site. For individual insurance commissions, I did in my handout put the grid for all individual health insurance for 2019. So please, if you're not able to download that or print that, let me know and I can email you that after the webinar. Pre-Ex waivers, we talked about this as well last week. Don't believe the hype. There's an awful lot of vitriol, especially coming up to the elections next week, that, kind of pitting pre-ex, no pre-ex against Democrats and Republicans. But I can tell you the 1332 waivers and how HHS has made it easier to file for exemptions also means that it's a secondary market that they have to set up. There is going to be a solution for folks or states that elect to do the waiver programs. There will be a provision for those folks that have pre-existing coverage that can't get a skinnier or a less comprehensive plan. So just be mindful of that. But there are comments that are due by December 28th. So if you feel strongly about the HRAs or some of the other issues with these waiver programs, please make your comments heard. Proposed new rules, the use of federal subsidies for skimpier plans that can reject those with pre-ex, of course, short-term limited plans, etc. Please note that, again, provisions for those with pre-ex would still be in place, and the HRA expansion that would allow employers to fund individual plans and short-term medical this would be in addition to the QSEHRA provisions for the small employer HRAs. So we'll be watching that, of course. And specific to our Commonwealth, Pennsylvania House Bill 504 was signed into law, and that allows for unlicensed entities to sell content insurance for storage companies as long as the owner or a manager has the licensure to conduct business within that state and, of course, have the insurance license. So that's not, I don't think, a big threat to any independent agent because there is a licensed entity, and that's, I think, kind of a win for us. U.S. District Justice in Texas, they heard oral arguments, of course, on the Texas versus Azar challenging the constitutionality of the ACA law. Since they took away the individual mandate, zeroed out the individual mandate, it still stands. It's just the penalty is zero. Since they did away with that, there are folks that say then that the whole law should dissolve, and they're questioning, of course, the constitutionality of the law without the mandate. So no decision will be made before Election Day, but that is something that should be coming down hopefully soon. It'll be interesting. So we have a lot more on our agenda. We have a whole other slide of important things that I want to talk to you about. But at this time, I'm going to hand over the controls and introduce Ms. Carrie McEwen. She's Highmark's Director of Sales and Client Management. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. And she will be going over the Highmark 2019 program. So Carrie, take it away.
Thanks so much, Deb. I just want to quickly check to make sure you can hear me.
Yes.
And okay, and perfect, and see my screen. So thanks, everybody. Thank you to URL for allowing us to join you today. And thanks to all of you for jumping on. I do see a pretty good size attendee list dialed in right now. So Deb introduced me, and I just wanted to kind of give an overview of my team, and this is who URL works directly with on your behalf whenever we are, facilitating business or troubleshooting issues, things like that. I oversee small group sales and retention teams in both Northeastern and Central Pennsylvania, reporting up to Kareem Corbin, who oversees all small group sales and retention in the 5 regions and 3 states that Highmark serves. I have 1 new business sales executive who also handles both regions, and then 2 client managers that operate in their respective regions. So today we'll go over a couple different things. Deb mentioned 2019 products and rates. There's some important things on top of that that I want to make sure you're aware of for both of these regions. And then I'll give you just a little preview of 2019 and beyond. Some important things about, what our provider landscape looks like. There's a lot of talk about UPMC crossing the state, and, what does that mean for Highmark members in Central and Northeastern PA specifically. Talk a little bit about, association health plans and their movement forward or lack thereof in the state of Pennsylvania, the expiration of grandmothered policy, and then a little bit about small group ASO. So I'll first jump into Central Pennsylvania specific information. If you recall, if any of you were on the webinar that URL and Deb let us join in on, I want to say it was back in May, we mentioned that the Pennsylvania Insurance Department approved a rate drop for our Central PA ACA rates in the 21 counties. It was approved back in May, I think it was May 14th. Oh yeah, it's right on the slide here for you. And it applies to all 21 counties in the region. I'll give you a quick snapshot as far as what that transpired into for 2019, and you'll see there are very similar pricing advantages in the ACA space. As far as 2019 plan design changes, they are very minimal, and we are working to get something out to URL, just kind of outlining by plan option what changes, if any, have occurred. I'll say that they are basically copays on, maybe 10 or less plans. The majority of the plans did not have a lot of changes. We did actually add a few plan designs, our Choice Blue plan, which is part of our partnership with Penn State Health, and I'll talk to you about that for just a minute in a few slides here. But I mentioned as far as the rating position, this is just a very quick snapshot of the difference between us and one of our larger competitors as far as the ACA plans are concerned. Now, I do know that there is a very recent and aggressive approach out there in the small group ASO space that may be somewhat bumping up against what we are trying to do in the ACA space, and that's okay. We just wanted to kind of compare apples to apples for you. You know, it's sometimes difficult when it's one blue plan up against another blue plan, and making sure that we are touting, you know, our own value proposition, and we know that it's more than rates. But we also know in the small group space, rate is very important, and I can respect that. So we're looking at the 3 different rating regions that the Central PA region covers. You'll see that in any one of them, we have at least a 4% or better price benefit. Now, of course, this changes depending on the group size and the plan option selected. I've seen some rating differences where we're more competitive by upwards of 20%. So I just wanted to give you a visual of where the average sits, and certainly if you are looking for options, we are able to help get them for you. I did mention our Choice Blue PPO plan. This is brand new for 1/1 of 19. It is part of our partnership with Penn State Health. And what I'll tell you about this product is it is a soft launch for us in the Highmark space altogether, not just you know, small group, but small group, mid-market, large group. We are soft launching it now, but looking for a more robust launch across the entire enterprise later this year. So I will say to stay tuned for that. The pricing is not necessarily, the pricing is there, but it is not as maybe beneficial as it might be when we look to do a stronger launch of the product. We are still building out a lot of the back-end components of the network, and I can give you a quick snapshot of what the network looks like today. But it's going to operate, if you're familiar with our Lehigh Valley Flex Blue product, this product is going to operate very similarly. So the enhanced value providers are really the tier 1 in-network providers, where members are going to see the lowest out-of-pocket costs, lowest deductible and copays, things like that. The standard level then, slightly higher copays, still in-network, but slightly higher cost sharing for the member. And then the out-of-network component, of course, as you can see, is always going to be maybe more expense to the member. So it is available in what we call Zone X, but it is the counties that you can see on the screen there. And just to give you a snapshot of what the network looks like as of today, you'll see that enhanced level on the left-hand side here and all of the counties that are included. And I'll call out that Blue Cross Blue Shield network, as far as Blue Card is concerned, is also considered enhanced. So it's a pretty expansive network. And then the standard value, which is still in network, but at a slightly higher cost share, you're looking at things like Reading Hospital, most of the UPMC providers as well. So again, we mentioned back in May, as part of a 3rd and 4th quarter drive for ACA business, we introduced a broker bonus program. That bonus program is still running through this 4th quarter for August 1st through December 1st effective dates. Stay tuned to see if we are going to expand that into January and beyond. We're not quite there yet as far as whether we are or not, but it's basically for any group that is 2 to 9 enrolled contracts, $150 per group, and then any client with 10 to 50 enrolled contracts, $300 per group. And I'll just specify again that this is for true small groups, so any mid-market group that might have, 20 enrolled would not qualify for this bonus program.
Carrie, I want to jump in real quick on that bonus. We do have that bonus out there in our bonus flyer, but that is split as our commissions with Highmark as contractually 80-20. So the 150 will go to 120 for our agent partners, and the 300 is 240. Oh, I see you have split 80-20. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make it clear.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Carrie.
Yes, but I mentioned the 80-20 split that we do have out there contractually. I mentioned that it only applies to true small groups, and we are keeping this for any customer who is true new to Highmark in the ACA space. So if any client converts from the grandmother space into the ACA space, we would not consider that part of the bonus. We are paying them quarterly. We are actually just getting the calculations from the third quarter out to URL later this week. Calculations and the funding as well, the money. So look for that to come, and hopefully everybody can make a little money this fourth quarter as well. And the last thing that I wanted to mention specific to Central PA is a new pilot that we are introducing in Central PA, specifically in small group only. And it is the Highmark Plan app on the cell phone. It is compatible with all Android devices and all Apple devices. But basically, this app allows customers to do quite a bit. You can actually download a copy of your ID card to have it on your phone. You can pay claims if you have a spending account. Members can schedule doctor appointments through the app. They can pretty much do everything they need to do relative to the health insurance and how it connects to any type of medical appointment that they need to do. So I mentioned we're piloting it for 1/1/19 in small group Central PA only. And later in the year, the end of the first quarter, we are expanding that pilot to all small group. So mid-market and other market segments will come later, but we sometimes don't always get the opportunity in small group to be the pilots for things. We actually are pretty excited about this. I think it's going to make healthcare a little easier as far as connecting the member directly to their information. You know, we saw a huge drive, and I'm sure you've all seen it as well. You know, you walk down the street, so many people are head down in the phone. So we wanted to kind of meet the member where they are, and that was our pilot here. So when we have more information about that as well, we will get that out to you, or to URL rather, excuse me. So moving over to Northeastern PA, I'll say our grandmothered business actually renews for January 1. This is about 85% of our entire block in Northeastern PA, and we're a little bit different here because it renews on January 1, where the majority of the market that has grandmothered plans still available renews December 1. That block, we are trying to be pretty aggressive on retaining it. The average increase for the entire block is about 7%. And we're actually seeing 80% of that block with a rate increase of 10% or less. So pretty decent pricing. Plan designs have not changed. As you know, in the grandmothered space, we have to work with the plan options that we already have. So more to come on what that's going to mean. I'll talk about that a little bit in later slides as far as 2019 and beyond. As far as ACA new business and renewals are concerned, same thing as in Central PA. The plan designs are extremely minimal. We are working to get an overview of any and all plan design changes out to URL for you. And I will tell you, I'll kind of call the elephant out in the room. You know, our pricing was just approved by the insurance department a little bit, well, not earlier this month, excuse me, it's already November, but later in October. And we actually do not have necessarily a pricing advantage in the Northeastern PA region. But what I will say to that is to stay tuned for more information on our joint venture with Geisinger Health System. And Geisinger Health System, I want to make sure we are separating from Geisinger Health Plan because they are very different, one the insurance arm, one the provider arm. And what that joint venture really looks like is the attempt to provide access to care in especially areas where the closest provider is, you know, not necessarily giving options. So we're just trying to give members options as far as where they can go for care. This joint venture first is looking at a community-based facility in the Lycoming County area. And so it's not fully approved by the insurance department, but we are expecting that very shortly here. And it's going to include a facility and a whole practitioner base. So as we get more information on that, and as that becomes more formalized as far as the regulatory components are concerned, we will start to vocalize that and get a lot of more material than you probably want speaking to it. And then the second, what I'll call elephant in the room as far as Northeastern PA is concerned, you may or may not be aware, based on your block in the region, the former Blue Cross of Northeastern Pennsylvania only typically paid commissions on new business that came in. Any direct business was always considered non-commissioned. And moving into the Highmark space, where the model of doing business was very different. You know, we needed to try and bridge the gap to make that transition for both us and for you and for the member feel as painless as possible. And I can appreciate that that might not feel painless to those of you on the phone. What I will tell you is that we feel as if we are at a good place and we have bridged that gap to a spot where we feel comfortable getting rid of that non-commissioned nomenclature. So I'm happy to kind of say, after quite a long transition for us, effective January 1, and then upon renewal thereafter, all business is considered commissionable. We only ask that BOR letters, you know, come in according to the rulings that we have out there. So we call it the 10th of the month rule. But what that means to any of you is that if a BOR is received by us between the 1st and the 10th of any month, it becomes effective the 1st of the following month. And then you can see the chart there, 11th through the end of the month, it would become effective the 1st of the next following month. So this is a bigger change for us, and more details to come. We are getting materials out to URL just to outline everything so that there is clear communication down to you as well. But we wanted to make sure that we mentioned it here because we feel that it is a decent, while a transition, indeed, we feel that it is a decent step forward in the right direction. So then looking at 2019 and beyond, I mentioned that UPMC is moving across the state and at a very rapid pace. And you hear a lot with the insurance department and publicly, either via newspapers or television commercials, whatever the case may be, you know, the upcoming impending divorce and consent decree in Western Pennsylvania. And what I want to make sure that I communicate to you as far as Central and Northeastern Pennsylvania are concerned is that that divorce is not happening in Northeastern and Central PA now. We actually still are maintaining the level of network stability that we've had up until this point and have contracts with the UPMC hospitals in both regions. You know, UPMC Susquehanna in the Northeastern region, those contracts are running through 2024. And then the UPMC Pinnacle facilities and providers in Central PA are running through June of 2025. So again, here we are taking steps with Geisinger to provide additional opportunities for access to care throughout the state. And you'll see more information as that progresses here in the next year, 2 years. I realize those 2024 and 2025 dates and insurance years, that feels like a month away. But we will be aggressive just the same in kind of making sure that all of our members and all of you have options to choose from as we go forward. And just giving you a very quick visual based on our partnerships across the entire state, you know, some of them that matter a little more to me in Central and Northeastern Pennsylvania, the Lehigh Valley Health Network, Geisinger, and Penn State Health predominantly. Those are the areas that we are going to look to really expand upon and see where we can go with them versus necessarily purchasing facilities. And then I'll move out to association health plans, and I won't spend a ton of time on this. You heard me say earlier the state's progression of AHPs in the state or lack thereof. Association health plans basically came out in June of this past year. Final regulations were released and said that an association can form based on a common industry, a common geography. They can provide coverage for the sole purpose, or excuse me, they can form for the sole purpose of providing health insurance. Sole proprietors, working owners, and retirees were all eligible to join. And health status was the only thing that we were not able to rate on. So what happened from there, you know, I'm pretty sure my boss, Corinne Corbin, visited with probably 40 to 50 associations, agencies like URL on behalf of associations, exploring what this means and how we can move forward. However, a couple things that really stopped our progress as of right now. First, Pennsylvania itself joined with 12 other states, filing a lawsuit to basically challenge the legality of association health plan guidance. That really didn't necessarily stop us, but gave us a second to pause. You know, but we could not stop forward progress based on that alone, because if we did that whenever a lawsuit came about, we would never move forward at all. What really did halt what I'll call production in the state of Pennsylvania was the insurance commissioner's letter to the Department of Labor outlining Pennsylvania's position, which basically said that any small group plan would have to be in any small group employer would have to be enrolled in a small group plan with essential health benefits and age-banded rating. Any individual would have to be in an individual plan with individual age-based rating, and any large group, mid-market group would have to be in their respective plan and rating methodology. So there was no benefit necessarily for these groups to form together because the small group would not be able to achieve the large group rating and plan design structure that the final rule from the association, or excuse me, from the federal government put forth. So I will say we are not at a screeching halt. We have not stopped altogether. We have a number of questions out to both the federal government as well as the insurance department looking at different alternatives for this and how this may or may not be able to move forward, but the strategy as it stands is on hold. And then lastly here, I'll just talk to you about two things and the expiration of grandmothered policies that I mentioned earlier. I feel like I have the same conversation every year when we talk about these grandmothered policies. We just recently, or I should say last spring, received an extension on these policies, again from CMS, and then the Pennsylvania Insurance Department approval came very quickly thereafter. And basically the transitional guidance allows carriers to continue renewing those grandmothered policies for any plan year that begins on or before October 1st. One of the stipulations that I think is important to point out is that the last round of guidance requires transition to an ACA policy as of January 1, 2020, regardless of the customer's renewal date. So when you look at a customer in a grandmothered policy who renews July 1 of 2019, provided nothing changes from a regulatory standpoint, that means that that customer needs to transition to ACA by January 1. So it looks like a 6-month short plan year. Now, every carrier that has a grandmothered block is likely to make some type of adjustment to that or try and make it feel less painful. Nobody wants to have a shortened plan year, start deductibles over, things like that. We do not yet have anything that we are ready to communicate as far as what we will be doing. We are actually advocating very heavily to keep these plans in place as long as possible because I mentioned earlier 85% of the block in NEPA is grandmothered, and the numbers are just as high in any other region that has grandmothered business. The customers are staying in those options because they like them and because they want to keep them. So we're advocating to the regulatory bodies on behalf of those customers, and as long as they continue to remain in those plans, we will continue to do that. And then lastly, I'll just talk about small group ASO, level funded plan designs, and this chart is slightly dated, goes back to 2016, but the trend, basically, all this is communicating, you see it just as much as we see it, that there is a trend where small group ASO, level funded plan options are very much being, I'll say, sought after, quoted, however you want to phrase that. We, Highmark, do not have an internal solution for this built, mostly because I mentioned we still have that large block of grandmothered business. The need necessarily has not presented itself to us. We are aware of other competitors that have their own offerings, some going down to 5 lives, some going down to 2 now coming up here in the next couple months. And we are looking at internal options. I don't know that I am at a place where I can say that we will have something. It really depends on how we progress regulatorily wise coming forward. But we do kind of question in a marketplace like this, and with small employers in particular, how long an ASO solution is really going to be sustainable. So that's another reason, secondary to the grandmothered business, that we are kind of holding back. But stay tuned, depending on where we go from a regulatory standpoint, And with grandmothered in business, we may see some changes in that. So with that said, I will turn it back to Deb and let her continue and see if we have any questions afterwards. Deb, are you there?
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. I'm here. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, they can raise their hand now, or if they can't wait till the end. And let me just see our question block to see if, oh, Brent is asking, are you able to send me the slide deck, Carrie?
Yeah, I can send you components of it. Yep.
Okay. Brent would like to see slide number 18 again with a map. So I think that's probably maybe important to get.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so let me just continue on with the agenda quickly because we do have some important information about National General short term. So Capital Blue Cross, the new broker of record requirements, that was sent out. Most of you have responded to that, so thank you very much for that. And the ASO level funded plans are now down to 5 live, starting with 12/1 effective date. So if you want to see some quotes, then let us know. So here's the big issue, and the short-term limited duration insurance, questions on the National General products approval. I am talking right now in the capacity of the VP of Health Plan Options for URL Insurance Group. I'm not talking in the capacity of a pay-who chair. So I just want that clear. So for those of you that were on last week's webinar, we talked about the Pennsylvania Insurance Department's webinar that we were on the day before, essentially saying over and over that no plan has been approved in Pennsylvania for the sale of short-term limited duration for the period of 364 days. National General is saying that they don't have to file with PA. They never have. They filed with Texas, as they always have, under their life association programs. So I'm not sure if anything's being pursued by the Pennsylvania Insurance Department at this point or with National General. I've taken a step back from it, but I can tell you that URL's response is this. We have pulled everything from National General from our website until this can be, vetted, and until we have something from the Pennsylvania Insurance Department. I in no way think that National General has done anything untoward or malicious in promoting these products. I think it's just, semantics and difference of opinion between their legal team and the insurance department. But our response has to be in line with the Pennsylvania Insurance Department, and that's why we made the decision to pull the links. If that doesn't matter to you and you are licensed under us with National General short-term medical, I would strongly encourage you to only sell 89 days because I'm not sure how closely the insurance department is looking at this, but you do definitely put yourself, expose yourself to some liability if you're selling the 364 days at this point. So enough of that. Aetna AFA going down to 2 lives for 3/1/19 effective dates. Our group quoting portal benefits has loaded all the 2019 rates for Highmark Central, West, and East, formerly NEPA, UPMC, Independence, Capital, and United Healthcare. Highmark individual quoting and plan design information. There is obviously on their site, but there's a way to really look at those SBCs and drill down to the plan designs, and that is at shop.highmark.com. So please, if you want information before we can get everything on our site, that's the best source for Highmark. Cap Blue Cross commission retractions, they're going to hit. They were just processed yesterday. They're going to hit, and they're going to hit in a big way. So please review and then compare with the November statement, because Capital themselves have said that there are errors in these retractions, but they process them nonetheless. So I would definitely pay close attention to this statement, but also next statement in comparing the two. If you know on this October statement that there is a glaring issue, I would encourage you to reach out to Brandy and her team to look into those errors. But it's going to be, as usual, the end of the year, some commission issues, and unfortunately we're at the mercy as well. I have an agent partner that for many, many, many years has done individual under 65 health insurance. And as many of you did back in 2013-14, he transitioned to Medicare. He still gets leads. They're in New York County. And if any of you are interested in getting those leads and working them as your clients, let me know. Shoot me an email, or, again, just let me know. So the Orion Platform, we talked about this as well last week. And what does that mean for you? Well, quite simply, it just means an expansion of offerings and revenue for you. If you get a call from a client that you have no time to service, no certification or authorization to service, or you just don't have the time, or you're not willing to do it, send them our way and we'll help out your clients on your behalf. We keep you front and center in the entire process. And it's a great way for you not only to expand your offerings and gain new clients, but certainly to increase your revenue. So be mindful of that. And then that's it. That brings us up to our open discussion and some questions. So please get your questions. And while you're doing that, I will be back here the same time next week at 9:30. So we do have some questions. Jay asks, Carrie, why has Highmark chosen not to offer individual health plans in York County?
Yeah, thanks, Deb. So we have a more micro market strategy in the individual market, and we felt that there was adequate access to care outside of that county, and there were already plan designs available either through other carriers or other alternative options. So we, a couple years ago, you've probably heard the story, probably ad nauseum at this point, but we needed to take some very calculated and deliberate decisions needed to happen in the individual space. And part of that included narrowing networks and offering plan designs in certain segments, but not others. So it was still purposeful. There may be additional plan options coming later, maybe next year, but for right now, we are not in that county.
And Lebanon is another county on Marketplace that there are no individual plans, Lebanon County, but there is one off Marketplace plan in Lebanon. So that's another county that has some restricted choices. Yep. Erica asks if there is a new way to quote individual ACA plans with Highmark. She said that online it only lets you quote 12/1. Do you know anything about that, Carrie?
So it should have opened up as of today. If that is not the case, I don't know if someone was window shopping prior to that or if it was truly tried today and it wasn't working. But if it's not working, I would like to know, and I can take that feedback internally.
Yeah, let me know, Erica, and I'll certainly give that information to Carrie. Joe is asking how soon that we'll get more information on that new BOR program.
Yeah, so I will send an email out to URL later today just outlining all of it, but the BOR process itself is the same as it's always been. We follow that 10th of the month rule as far as when we accept BORs and make them effective for the first of the following month. But the decision to pay commissions is specifically what I think that's what you're referring to. I will get the details out to Deb about that later today.
Perfect. And Jay asks from my understanding with several other carriers operating in PA, they show 89 days for short-term medical, and that's exactly right, Jay. But National General had said, actually promoted and was quoting something other than that. Again, nothing malicious, but the 89 days is what PA has approved thus far. Elise says a note that we're just waiting for Geisinger with benefits. And with UPMC, they do require specific forms that have been included in all of the renewal emails. So if you are looking to quote UPMC, please be mindful of those additional forms. Joe says, if we wrote a Geisinger plan last year on 1/1 for 0%, would we get? No. So Joe's asking about the individual compensation with Geisinger. They are only paying the 3% renewal as they have the previous years, but if it's 0%, it's your renewal, and those renewals were from, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. So no, the answer is no. If it's 0% last year, it's going to be 0% this year to you, Joe. Mike says, any suggestions for Lebanon County individual market for those who qualified previously for subsidies? Geisinger was the only option. Yes, let me, I tell you what, I can't find my chart, Mike. I'll get that out to you. But I do believe that Capital and Geisinger, I believe, were in those markets, and UPMC as well. But Mike, I'll get back to you on that. Jay asks if Highmark is offering direct to individuals who live in York and lose group. He says he's being told that the beneficiary believes they can get Highmark coverage in York if they lose group coverage. Is that true? If there's no product, they can't have it, direct or not.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that looks like all the questions. Brent is looking for a copy of slide number 18, Carrie. So if you want to send that to me, I can get that out. And also, just remember, I have the handouts. Our Colonial Life bonus is still going on, and you have another whole month to earn that, some bonus money in that during that contest. And then, of course, the individual commission chart that I made up. As always, I thank everyone for joining in. Carrie, I so appreciate you joining in and bringing us up to date with the Highmark program.
Thank you. And
as always, if you have questions outside of this webinar, feel free to reach out to me at 800-926-8875 at extension 113, or at my email, debw@urlinsgroup.com. Again, thank you so much for joining in, and I wish everyone a great balance of the week and a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.